Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. And everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you have, some fun plans for the weekend. But before you get to those, hey, we have a whole episode here with Nathan Evans. He is managing editor over at Popzara.com. If you don't know who they are, where have you been? They are a great publication where they talk a little bit about everything. And, ladies and gentlemen, it's always fun to get a nice potpourri of, pop culture, tech, gadgets, movies, video games, books. Doesn't really matter. There's something there for everyone. And we'll be talking to Nathan Evans just about, news stories of the day and, what's been going on in the past, couple of days. There has been some newsworthy stuff, including we're going to talk about the Sony's State of Play show. We're also going to be talking about a little bit of AI stuff. Of course, you can't get away from it. It will find you. AI will find you. There's a whole movie about it. But of course, everyone references it, so I won't mention it. And of course, we have a few other stories sprinkled in there as well. So before we get to that, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, podcasts, social media links, contests, giveaways, all that and more. Ladies and gentlemen, you should really check that out. Now, with all that being said, let's go ahead, bring in Nathan, and just enjoy our Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Popzara.com if you want to check out what him and his team do over there. Lots of great articles and news and reviews and all the good stuff. Nathan, welcome back onto Computer America. How you been?
Hey, Ben, what's going on? Real quick, so for those who don't know, Ben and I usually chat a few minutes before, and there was a technical snafu where one of us couldn't hear each other. And I think I scrambled to see my settings, and you scrambled to see your settings. And it reminds me, I recorded a podcast with my gaming editor, Corey, the other day. And before we do the same thing. And I said, hey, let me do some sound checks. He's like, well, why do you want to do that? And I said, because I changed everything. He's like, what do you mean? I got a new keyboard. I got this. He's like, why do you change things? And I said, Corey, I'm a tech guy. I have to. It's not, I don't want to. I have to. Like, if everything's working perfect, then it's done. Then I have to move on and screw it up all over again. That's how it works. Yeah. You know this.
Yeah. If there's
we can't let enough be.
It doesn't matter if there's a workaround. If it's not working the way you want it, then it needs to be broken. But
it never works.
Yeah, exactly.
It can always be better.
It can always be better. So, but ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and just get started with. So Nathan Evans. It's been about a month. A lot is going on, but we're going to focus on the latter half of the last week. And
some interesting stuff this month.
Yeah, and some cool stuff. Yeah, you sent over a lot of stuff. I think we start with the one that I just mentioned for the show, or rather you submitted, which is ICQ. For long-time Computer America listeners, there was a time when instead of all these fancy, chat rooms, Twitch chat, social media, all that good stuff, before even all of that, Computer America ran probably one of the most prolific IRC chat rooms in all of the early internetdom. And we carried that on for far longer than we probably should have. But there's also to say that IRC, and I know the nice folks that listen to us over there and talk in those chat rooms, they're still actively using it in 2024. Yeah. Like we kind of cut the chat room back in like 2010, 2012, which is late. But this idea of like an internet-based chat room is old as the internet and has been replaced and iterated upon, and is now, Nathan, pretty much, comments on videos and social media posts and so on and so forth. Like, it's the same thing, just evolved. And
exactly.
Yeah, so the originals are still there, except you had this article here saying that ICQ, which if you go to ICQ.com, it says it will stop working from June 26th onward. So what's up?
I feel a little bad because sometimes I'm going to reveal a little bit about how I feel. So every once in a while, I'll see a news story. Okay, I feel bad saying this, but all the listeners are going to totally commiserate with me. I feel bad. I'll see an actor that was really popular at some point in time die, like pass away, and I'll be like, I didn't know they were still alive.
Yeah, that happens.
And I feel really bad for saying that. I'm like, they're dead. I thought they died a long time ago. But that's how I felt about ICQ. You mentioned how things just evolved. It's the same game. Yeah, ICQ was the progenitor of everything you use today. Google Text, WhatsApp, Snapchat, all that stuff. It was the first biggest one. It's developed out of Israel back in early mid-90s, I think. Got bought out by AOL, so there you go. But no, it's gonna die. But you mentioned ICQ, IRC. IRC lives on in Discord and Slack and everything. It's the same thing. It's a persistent chat room that goes with you. And then you have things like Twitter/X that take the chat off the program and slap it on content. It's this is the gold mine of the 21st century is not just data, but monetizable data. It's like, you don't have to come to my website. I will bring my website to you, or I just want your data. It doesn't matter where you're looking at it. You could be looking on YouTube, website, mobile platform, whatever. And what ICQ did, ICQ was the first one. It wasn't the first, but it was the first major one, the first real one that demonstrated that you could have this quote unquote social community. Again, when AOL bought it, it was probably the end of the line. I know the company that owns it I think it's called VK now. They're some Russian-based company, so of course we're contractually obligated to hate the Russians. But the fact is that ICQ at a certain point in time was giant. It was giant. It was like MySpace or Yahoo. No, I'm just kidding. It was big.
Where do you think they went wrong? Did they even go wrong? Is it just it's just a technology that's been iterated upon and is no longer necessary? Like what happened?
I don't think they did anything wrong. I think they did everything right. I think they were great. Like, they literally invented it. They invented a lot of the things. Other companies like Google, other big companies bought the ideas and modernized it. Like, look at Google, for example. Google does wrong. Did you know that Google is shutting down another chat service this week?
Which one?
I didn't even know they had one. Did you know Google Maps had a chat?
No.
A messaging feature? Exactly. Didn't even know it. Like Google has shut down more messaging services than the Kardashians have children. Like, they have so many chat things they have killed off. ICQ is still running after 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, that's a success.
Yeah, and there's something very kind of ebb and flow about chat things. I know Zoom had its moment of the day. Somehow Skype failed right at the beginning of the pandemic. Still blows your mind how they're able to do that. Like, chat services, and what I've kind of realized just kind of thinking about it is, it doesn't really matter what chat service you use or how good it is. It could be timeless. It can be super good. It can be everything you need. It's going to be like productivity, and it's just people don't want to be around just to use a chat client. They want to be where other people are. Chat clients are innately social, and if all of your friends are on Instagram, if they're all on TikTok, if they're all on YouTube, if they're all on Facebook, whatever, like, Nathan, it seems like chatting doesn't really matter how good or how well or how poorly you do it. It's just, if you have the people, you're going to be successful. Oh, did I lose Mr. Nathan? Participants.
Hello?
Oh, yeah, there we go. No, you're good now.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Actually, I blame my technology because my headset has a button that mutes it. Sorry, I'm going to change that. But listen, no, what you're suggesting happened crudely with Apple. Apple basically turned text messaging. I forget the protocol that text messages. What is it? What's the protocol that all text?
iMessage?
not iMessage, but like what's the actual protocol behind it? SMS, like things like that.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, yeah.
It's something new. It's a new protocol, but basically it was the thing that text messages used. And Apple says, we're going to layer a messaging service on top of that. And there's iMessage. iMessage is not text message. It is a chat function, right? That's built off of SMS.
Right.
And the result was blue bubbles versus green bubbles. And you laugh, but honestly, we have US senators and we have the European Union actually saying you can't do that anymore because that's discrimination. I'm not joking. I am not joking. These people are sick and scary.
Those are definitely weird. And the only credence I give to their argument is that when I include someone who does not have an iPhone in an iPhone conversation, the quality of video that is shared is degraded. Yeah. Everything slows down. Like that technology should work better. But I don't think it's discrimination or anything along those lines.
No, it's
one
not
is blue and one is green. That is weird.
Well, the thing is that Apple's killer app is iMessage. Like we talked about ICQ, we could talk about Slack, we could talk about Twitter, we could talk about this, but Apple's killer app is iMessage. And I'll tell you what, I don't have a Mac yet. Again, I used to be, but I have a phone and I have an iPad, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I told you I got a new keyboard. One of the reasons I got a new keyboard is that I love checking my text messages on my iPhone, but I don't like picking up my iPhone and having to use my fat fingers to type because I can't do it. I'm always fighting with spell check. So I used to have a Bluetooth keyboard just for that, but my new keyboard has profile, so I can switch and chat. If I had a Mac, I wouldn't have to do that, right? But if I'm using my iPad, I don't have to do that. So I get it. I get the allure, but I'm not going to give up my Windows PC just to do iMessage. But people do. People do it all the time, right?
Right.
When ICQ was really, really popular, when it was really, really popular, I think it had like 100 million users, which doesn't sound like a lot today, but that's a lot.
Early internet, that's a lot of early adopters.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely a big one.
And I promise you, a lot of those people, like they helped Napster. They probably helped the torrent sharing back in the day as well. But again, AOL bought it. This is back in the day when AOL was Facebook, basically. Yep. And they were the internet for a lot of people. Welcome. You've got mail.
Yeah, that was actually a very good impersonation. But yeah, it's you receive the floppy disk in your mailbox, and you got time. You got 30 minutes or an hour. That was the internet. You're right.
Another floppy. Mm-hmm. Then another floppy, then another floppy, then another floppy, and never ends.
They spam those things for sure.
But long story short, AOL bought ICQ because their messenger was crap. Mm-hmm. Like AOL Messenger. By the way, God bless Craig Crossman, but no.
He carried AOL on longer than it should have as well. Absolutely.
He was given that thing the Heimlich maneuver for 30 years. But ICQ was much better. And I remember back in the day, and God bless, I forget what it was, but there was like a consolidation app where you could like merge some of your chats so you could use one for everything. It died off. Yeah. But I think the thing that spelled the death of ICQ, I think the thing that spelled the death of it, even back then as a viable thing, was MySpace. Like MySpace was once you saw MySpace and saw what a social media could be, because you had Zanga, you had LiveJournal, you had all that crap. Mm-hmm. But what MySpace did two things. MySpace said, everybody can join here and you could chat with each other. Like it was an integrated chat service. And I think even Google, remember Google with Buzz and all that stuff, even they failed at this when they tried to put Messenger inside Gmail. It failed. Like it was all a clone. Even Facebook Messenger, all a clone of MySpace. And I think once we did that, you don't want to go back.
Right.
I would say the closest thing, the spiritual successor to ICQ, would probably be WhatsApp, because it's so ubiquitous.
Yeah, and I'm not particularly familiar with VK services. That seems to be what they are pushing. Which looks to be another service mainly predominantly used by Russian speakers. That's what Wikipedia is saying here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's going to be what the ICQ and the people who run that are promoting, which I'm sure they have a hand in development of that service as well. So shutting down, and like you said at the very beginning, it's kind of like an actor who passes away and you're like, that's just presence of mind. That's just, I haven't seen them for 10 years, so they must be dead. It's that whole thing. So
I will say this. I'm not sad to see ICQ going because it's not a part of my life, but I do have some fond memories of it at the beginning. Like it was futuristic. It was cool. And I will say this, people don't know this. I mean, I don't want to be what I'm going to say is not controversial, but it was one of those early days of the Israeli tech boom. And if you've been to CES and everything, you know that Israel is a gigantic
Israel is a
Silicon Valley.
huge tech center for sure.
Yeah. And this was one of the big ones. This was one of the big ones. Like, we laugh now, but like Silicon Valley is made by social media, Facebook, Google, and all this. And same thing with Israel. So it's like, Godspeed, ICQ. You've done your work.
It was the progenitor, but there are many, honestly, and I know people who are diehard fans of these things don't like hearing it, but there are better services out there.
Of course there are. There are better services
there
back
is
then.
beauty and simplicity, but man, so simple is not always the way to go. So
well. Can I say final thought? This is irrelevant to the conversation, maybe, but it's sort of like when these people resurrected Winamp like a year ago, and they brought back Winamp from the dead. It's sort of the same thing. Like, there are much, 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 much better programs, but there are people that have software nostalgia, and if that's your thing, I'm sure somebody will fork a version and make ICQ come back.
Whenever I hear of a service like that, and being here with Computer America, we get a lot of pitches. I don't know. There's a lot of value, I think, put into, and rightfully so, the market need. Is there a need for the service that we want to bring to market? And sometimes the answer to that question is no, but they want to do it anyways. So good luck going into the headwind. I didn't send you this story. I did not send you the story because I didn't find any relevancy in it. But like, there was a news blip the other day about Atari finally acquired the Intellivision brand. And that would be like Nintendo acquiring Sega for a generation. Like, how did that? Like, but it's just a feather in the cap. It's not even useful.
Look, I love Atari. I love them as a concept, but the Atari of today is not the Atari of 40 years ago. It's just a brand, and that, like, them buying like an old brand, buying another old brand doesn't have the resonance that it might have had 40 years ago. So like, you might hear like VLC buys ICQ, and that would be like similar. I love VLC. Trust me, I use it all the time. But but ICQ is not a relevant thing.
Yeah.
RIP.
Yep. So there you go. So ICQ shutting down. If you're still using that, we're sorry to break the news to you, but the internet speeds can be slow. So there you go. Okay. Now, with that being said, that's our first story. Let's talk about Spotify for a little bit. And I did hear a little bit about this, but we should probably talk about it here on the air. Spotify won't open source car thing, but starts the refund process. So, and this is a real kind of issue with technology in cars and things that, cars are supposed to last 10, 15, 20 years, depending on the make and model, and as long as it's not a PT Cruiser. So the things inside of cars, the technology, and it's kind of like remotes, Nathan. Like when the TV dies, we still keep the remote, and you see like a button for like, I don't know, like Voodoo or something, or, a service that is defunct and is no longer a smart TV app anymore. The technology that they're putting in cars today will probably be dated before the cars themselves are ready to be gotten rid of.
I think we need to stop calling them cars, because they're not cars in the strictest sense anymore. Like, you have electric cars, like you have Tesla and you have all the others that are basically computers. Like, they have operating systems. Like, you can update your Tesla to get better gas mileage. Like that's not a combustion engine. Like, that's different. That's a performance. That's like upgrading your firmware to get CPU usage higher.
Download more RAM. Absolutely.
But you're talking about the car thing, right? From
Spotify. Yeah. Spotify, CarPlay, all that good stuff. Car things.
Yeah. This is okay. Like, a little irrelevancy. A couple weeks ago, there was all these reviews about the AI rabbit and all these little single-use devices that turned out to be garbage.
That was like pre-CES, right? That was like...
No, they showed it off at CES.
Yeah, they showed it off at CES.
Big thing. And I told you when you and I talked about this after the show, I said, junk. Like, not even, it's worse than vaporware. Vaporware has the decency to be vapor. It doesn't come out. But junk is garbage. They know is garbage that they release, knowing it will be obsolete. That's different. Vaporware is fun. You could talk about vaporware because you can't hold it accountable. Oh, imagine it came out. Yeah, you have to. But like AI rabbits and AI modules and car thing are junk, and they should have never come out. And Spotify knows it. And it's been a little controversy where they said they weren't going to refund. They weren't going to. People were calling to open source it so they could make it useful. Spotify's now will just refund you because we know it was junk. We knew it was junk. We should have never released this thing. But maybe in 2017 it would have been decent. But in 2022, they have cell phones. Like they have you need a smartphone to use this junk. Like you needed one. Like it didn't. You just plug it in and it used the radio waves. Yeah.
Even today, or just driving around town, you'll see standalone like and Garmin are a friend of the show, and we like a lot of their products. But like we see like standalone. 10 minutes
from Garmin. I live 10 minutes from Garmin headquarters. So,
but like you see like a standalone GPS unit, and you're blown away. It's like that's not just a cell phone on a stand. Like that is a standalone GPS device, and some people are going to, like Craig, hold on to old technology, but that's not needed anymore. Again, just kind of reading the market, and you think Car Thing kind of did that from the get-go. It wasn't really necessary.
No, Car Thing was worse. Like a standalone GPS is useful. Like it still works. Like you could literally get a new Garmin. They're pretty cool, actually. The new devices are pretty cool. They're fast. They're not Google Maps, so they don't need to be. But if you don't want to pay for a cell phone subscription, you could buy a cheap Garmin or a TomTom, put it in your vehicle, and it will work for the most part. It'll work. It'll get you where you want to be. Won't show you traffic or anything, but it'll get you close. But no, in order to use Car Thing, you needed a cell phone. You needed a subscription. You needed a subscription to Spotify Plus Premium. You needed a cell phone with a data plan. You needed all this stuff so you could put a little screen on your thing. But again, you've seen these people. Like they put their phones on the thing. It does everything. Like there's no knob, but no, it's Spotify should have never released this thing. They're chasing a product market that doesn't exist. Like it just doesn't exist. And and to be honest with you, I think maybe people would have been nicer on Spotify, but it seems like in the tech world, we love a company until we don't. And we will build you up and call you the greatest thing in the world until you do the one thing that we don't like, and that's it for you. And now we hate you.
Yeah.
And so like thank goodness Tesla didn't bring this thing out. Otherwise, there'd be riots in the streets.
There you go. And just kind of reading through the article a little bit, it did require a lot to kind of get going. It required an auxiliary connection. It required Spotify Premium. It required a Bluetooth connection for Wi-Fi data from your phone to work. All of this together, and like the fact that you needed like two other devices that could have taken the place of this device to get it to work. Probably, kind of spelt the death of this thing. Well, I'm curious why they haven't, and I think this of so many different products out there. You're just talking about like the Rabbit device and whatnot. Like I kind of get it, but at the same time, I'm like, if these companies don't want to do hardware and support the things that have been made, why not open source it? I don't know. I feel like this would be a good candidate for open sourcing.
There might be proprietary stuff in there they don't want to get away, but they also probably, because if they open source it, they could leave themselves open to warranty claims, because they're technically, if they're endorsing open sourcing, they might be endorsing product usage aftermarket. Like there could be a million different reasons, but it's like when Facebook brought out the Meta devices, and they brought out the phones, and they brought all that stuff, and like a software company will try to, like Snapchat will get into hardware. Like software companies have boners for hardware, and they really want to be hardware. They all want to be Apple, and they can't, because Apple has a different strategy. They have a different hardware plan. Like even Microsoft struggles to do hardware.
Apple at least had the decency to, much like Vaporware, just they axed their electric car department. They have said they won't bring out a full-fledged smart TV. They just don't bring things to market if they don't plan to support them.
I don't know if the Vision Pro is a success or not. I don't see any I don't see any reports that it's a gigantic failure, but I don't see any reports as a big success. It could be, by Apple standards, it's probably a failure, right?
Yeah.
But like you have a company like Nintendo that has a pretty good track record doing software and hardware. Very few failures. Then you have a company like Microsoft that loses maybe hundreds of billions of dollars on hardware. Then you have Google, same thing. But you have companies that are smarter, that they're built to be this hybrid company, software and hardware. Spotify is not. Literally, what makes Spotify so good, what makes it special, is the fact hardware isn't necessary. It plays on anything. Like Apple Music is a pain in the ass to get playing on things. Apple Music is way too clamped down. Spotify, if you'll play on your toaster, if you can get it running. Like it's the doom of music services. It'll play on anything. It'll play on mitochondrial DNA. You can listen to Bruno Mars while you're conceiving.
There you go.
You probably do anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, you don't need a little thing. Like, they called it car thing because what are you going to call it? Spot-a-car?
Yeah.
You have a phone.
You know why I might have called it? I might have called it Spot. Spot from Spotify. And it's just,
there's it's got a wheel, right? Somebody creative could have come up with some creative thing that instead of just car thing.
Spot dot, just play off that big knob, just like, dot spot, something like that from Spotify.
Yeah, it could work.
And just do that.
But yeah,
I don't think too many people are going to be upset about this because I don't think too many people really have these things. They did sell a lot, but
in 2022, a lot of cars had CarPlay, which had Spotify. Like it just wasn't necessary. It's like I don't know who the boner guy
read
who did this.
The market wrong. And even thinking back to like 2022, you know who else had a hardware device that had no reason to have a hardware device? Snapchat famously.
I mentioned them. Yeah,
you mentioned them. But it's like these primary software companies that have devices that are optimized for their service. Snapchat is optimized for phones, and then they say, oh, by the way, content creators, a very small niche of the people that are on this service. Here are some glasses that'll do some things that your phone can already do. And it became trendy for a little bit, but it was never successful. It was never successful. So
there's a Ray-Ban, I think, has a version of that too. Like again, Meta's had it famously on this show. I've talked about the failure of Google Glass.
Yeah.
But it turns out there are two types of hardware failures. There's a conceptual hardware failure, like Car Thing or Rabbit AI. Those are conceptual failures because the product is crap and nobody wants it. It is superfluous. It is duplicating services on unnecessary hardware, right? It is redundant. It is hardware redundancy. And then you have good ideas like Google Glass or Ray-Ban sunglasses. These are good ideas. These are solid ideas that are just run by terrible companies. like this is an old truism. Like, for example, I go back to the video game world because the best example I can give you is back in the 80s, Atari, Intellivision, Coleco, all this crap. Sorry. Beep. And they
it's okay now. We're no longer on radio. We're allowed to say curse words. So
woo.
Yeah, crazy.
So but anyway, these companies they destroyed the video game industry because they overflowed it with garbage. There was no protections, and a little company from Japan called Nintendo literally came to America and said, "Would you like to release our Famicom?" And Nolan Bushnell famously said, "Oh, there's no market for it. Nobody wants video games." So they said, "You know what? We're going to look back and see all the mistakes you did and not do them because the idea was good. Video games are a good idea. You just did it poorly." Right? So we're going to do it. We're going to put restrictions. We're going to set up liabilities. We're going to set up exclusivities. We're going to have quality control.
Yep.
And it worked. Like, the idea is good because it's run by a good company. And that continues. Same with Apple. Like them or hate them, Apple and Nintendo are good companies that run hardware and software symbiotically better than any other companies on this planet. Yep. Right? Then you have Microsoft, who's great at software, Google, who's pretty good at software, but they're not right to run certain ideas. Microsoft can't really seem to run hardware, and Google, outside of like search and mail, doesn't. Yeah.
Google has kept alive their smartphone division longer than I think they would have.
That's why it's subsidized. It's like if they were another phone company, they'd be on the dustbin of history. Like, there's this company called Nothing, the Nothing phone.
I I'm sorry, I explicitly remember the Nothing phone because I remember all the hype that led up to it, like 2 CESs ago.
Yeah.
I saw everything about it, and I saw it in person, and I was like, that's crap.
Here's the thing, though. It hasn't died yet because it is not concerned with brand awareness. It literally has a brand that's hard to say. All they do, if you listen to the CEO of this company, some young guy, he knows what he's doing is trolling people. He knows it. He literally compares himself to Apple. Oh, Apple did the iPod and they were successful, and they did AirPods. Dude, you are way off base.
Yeah.
All he's doing is he is making, let's call it what it is. He is making the Temu version of iPhone. He is making a cheap Chinese knockoff. He is not trying to innovate. He is not trying to do anything special. He is making a cheap Chinese crappy version of iPhone that doesn't cost very much. It is low impact. There is no hype around it for its technology. It is exactly what you think it is. It is the store brand version of a national brand. And that can work because he doesn't care about innovation. And that's fine. That's different. That's a middle ground. Like if you went to Walmart and you probably bought something called iCar, and it did the same thing as this thing, and it cost $20, it'd be terrible. It's like those FM receivers that plug in that give your car Bluetooth capacity by channeling into a radio frequency.
Mm-hmm.
You ever listen to those things? Garbage.
Yeah.
But you know what? People love them. $20, and you could put your iPhone on your crappy like 1992 Civic.
Yeah, it's and I had one of those adapters too for like I think we had like an old '93 Blazer that
work.
You plug it into the cigarette lighter to get power, and then you tune it to the radio, and it plays the thing. But
it works though. But they work.
Yep. So I think we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna wrap up Spotify car thing because Spotify's wrapping it up. So there you go. Nathan,
I'll just say this. I just want to say this about though. I like Spotify. I subscribe to Spotify. I listen to a lot of good things with Spotify. I like the service, but let me play the service the way I want. I have my own stuff. BYOP, bring my own product. So
there you go. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to our next story. And this is one that we just found out the other day. Maybe I'm just cheap. I don't even know. Every time I've tried to use like DoorDash, Grubhub, any of those food delivery services, you're bombarded with like, you check out, and I'm sure everyone who has used these services know what I'm already getting at. You check out, the food's $20, and then it gets to your door, and after the tip, you spent $45. It's like, why bother when I could just go out and spend $2 in gas and
you'd have to
go get it myself?
You'd have to leave your home, pause the movie or the show you're binging, pause the video game, right? And then you'd have to go outside. Get in your car.
I guess I'm cheaper than I am lazy. It must be that or something. I don't know. But anyways, Amazon Prime, Nathan, we have talked about how the price of Prime goes up year over year. And at the same time, what you actually get for Prime, and whenever Amazon's like rolling out new things, like they have like a new AI chatbot, and I think like they're going to redo Alexa to be like AI compatible, but it's its own like $15 a month service or something like that they're going to do. Amazon has been chipping away at the value that you get with Prime. So I was surprised to hear.
No, they're adding services. All those free services.
Yeah, but still, I'm surprised that they actually did add something that's more of a partnership. But still, it's like probably one of the biggest value added I've seen from Prime in a long time.
It's interesting, yeah. They added it last year, actually. What they did is they made the partnership official. Like, they said it was only going to be for 1 year. You'd have it for 1 year. But apparently, they made so much money on the partnership. Because what it does drive people to use more and spend more. And for example, Grubhub and all these food delivery services, it's all lies. Oh, we don't charge you delivery fee. Okay, they get rid of that. But then there's service fee, which is different than delivery fee. Then there's this fee, then this fee, and pretty soon it's like you're still paying a lot. Like you said, you could just go out and get it yourself. But no, it's interesting. It's like it's a value-added service to a service. But this is the same Amazon that now plays ads in front of their content that you didn't agree to. Like Amazon doesn't care about contracts. They will do whatever they want. You're going to pay. because they're basically Sam's Club or Costco.
Mm-hmm.
You pay the subscription fee, and they do. And to be honest with you, though, I can't believe I'm saying this. If you do spend a lot of money online, it's not a bad service. Like, it could do worse. Like,
Yep.
it's like we actually have, I run a small business, and so we order a lot of product. And the truth is, you don't need Amazon Prime to get shipping. Like, if you could wait a couple days, you don't need Amazon Prime. But like what they do is it's like a drug dealer. They get you by saying, "Oh, you got Prime. Well, if you wait a day, we'll give you like $1 back.
Yeah,
we'll give you 50 cents."
I have heard, for years and years and years. And when I first signed up, like I've signed up for Amazon Prime back in like 2012 or 2011 or something like that. Like I was like very, very early. And back then it was like $50 or $70, whatever it was.
Yeah, it's doubled in price in less than 10 years. Doubled.
It made sense for free shipping then. If you are paying for Amazon Prime just for free shipping today, it is not worth it. You will spend you spend more on the yearly subscription plan than you save in shipping costs. Like, it's not worth it. So they have to sweeten the pot. They have to make the service look attractive.
But this is a company that spends $1 billion to make a Lord of the Rings show that not too many people watched.
I like that show. Nathan, if they made it only for me, good on them. I like that show. I liked it.
And that's why you tell Amazon you appreciate raising their Prime fee again. But what I'm saying, and then with ads, but they do have a lot of value. Like, if you order a lot in bulk, like we order quite a bit, then it's good. Like, I only have 2 subscription services for buying, just 2. We have Walmart Plus, which is actually pretty useful. And we have, where I live, Amazon Prime, because I get stuff the same day if I want. But honestly, because that saves me time and money. That's different. That actually saves me money. But I'm not getting Amazon Prime for the free shipping or the Grubhub or whatever. But overall, you could do worse. But honestly, the prices are going up quite a bit. Like, you know what, Ben? I get so tired of having this discussion with people. I actually got it. I don't know if I told you. I actually got into an online argument with an editor.
You never get into art, Nathan. I know. As soon as you start arguing, you lose.
Can I be honest? In my defense, I was in pain. This was pre-surgery. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got into. I knew it. I got into an argument with a
Nathan. If I let everyone go who said, Ben, you got to understand, I was on drugs. That doesn't count.
But here. Okay, I should have been on better drugs, but what I'm saying is hold me back drugs. But no, I got into the drug of combat, right? And this editor works at a gigantic financial institution website. You've seen it. They're literally, the word means money. And this guy was tweeting out things about how PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass, you get all these free games. And I said, dude, that is not what free means. You pay for the service. He's called me an idiot. He's sent his followers on me. And I realized I lost
the argument you had. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, but it's not free. And you know what? I feel like I'm shouting at windmills. No one cares what I have to
Local
think anymore.
Nathan shouts at clouds. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, but Ben, it's like, it's a paid service. If you don't pay, you don't get the free stuff. To me, it's so basic.
Honestly, though, they're kind of preying on like the gamble brain. It's almost like the mystery box. Like, you could get the thing you want, or you could get a mystery box, and it could be anything. That added little mystery, I think, does play a small role in like, the subscription services where, who knows what Amazon's going to bring to its Prime members next, or, what's going to be on Netflix, what's going to be on Game Pass. Who knows? It could be anything.
But if I said to you, if there was a story that said, Netflix releases season 8 of Stranger Things for free on Netflix, that's not free. You pay for it. You're paying for Netflix. If you don't pay for Netflix, you don't get the free stuff.
Right.
Like, that's not even basic economics 101. That's basic common sense.
You're absolutely right. At the same time, though, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. That's just not.
I realized that halfway through, and I was ashamed of myself. I was ashamed of myself, and I felt embarrassed.
That's okay. I forgive you. But I will say that one of my favorite lines from one of my favorite comedians, Mike Birbiglia, he has a whole story about him and his then girlfriend, and he's like, and his girlfriend's like, you can either be right or you can be happy, and. I think about that often when I want to get into it with, stupid people. And, Nathan, I find myself choosing to be happy more than I choose to be right.
the best thing I ever heard was Keanu Reeves said something about this, right?
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, who's turning out to be a saint, by the way. Have you seen this? He's a living saint. I'm not joking.
Yeah, he does good things.
Yeah, he does good things. And he said, I'm at the age when I don't argue with anybody. If you think 1 + 1 is 5, you're right. Go live your life. Like, I get it, right? But the journalist in me, the editor in me, needs to correct the message. And I realize I'm obsolete. I'm ICQ. Like, there's no market for me anymore. Like, you know what? You're right. It's free. It's like Weird Al Yankovic famously said in the song "Dare to Be Stupid." He said, it's like saying you have to buy one if you want to get one free. Like, he knew this back then.
Yeah.
You're stupid. You know what? You go with it. It's your money. You do with it as you see fit. It's like J.G. Wentworth, like, it's your money. Use it when you need it.
Yeah, it's your money and I need it now. Yep. Okay, so there you go. And getting back on topic real quick, it's Grubhub food delivery subscription. I guess they're pretty much just like waiving the $12 delivery fee on orders. Like if you're an Amazon Prime member and you sign up through it. So really that's all you're getting. It's just like that extra fee waived, and everything else is kind of standard.
The truth is, I do want to promote Grubhub a little bit, because I told you it's kind of a waste, but there is one silver lining to this. If you do get this, it does waive the fee if a restaurant's really far away. So if you want to try something new, like if you don't want to drive all the way out to that sushi restaurant to try their ramen, and you just want it, like instead of paying $13 to deliver it, that's when it pays for itself, because you think to yourself, well, I'm not going to pay $14 to try this restaurant that's 20 minutes away. Like, oh, they waived the $14. There's some value added there.
It makes me wonder, and Amazon still has kept their is it Whole Foods? Yeah, it's Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Amazon has still kept their position in Whole Foods. They're still opening up grocery stores, grocery chains, and they're still doing food delivery. I kind of wonder.
They are shutting down their stores, though. They're from what I understand, it was a failure. The cashier stores.
Yeah. The totally open convenience store like things. Yeah, but whatever.
Turned out it was bogus. I think it wasn't real. It wasn't real AI. It was like 10,000 Vietnamese people.
I think it was just a way to get headlines, and if it didn't catch fire, then they weren't going to pursue it. But Nathan, I'm thinking there is, especially in this day and age where acquisitions are everything. It seemed, I would not be surprised if Amazon, and just reading the article here, they have a 2% stake in Grubhub. They're looking to increase that to a 4% stake in Grubhub. So I would not be surprised if everything kind of goes well and Amazon can kind of
buys them.
Yeah, honestly, if Amazon just gets a large portion or just buys them outright of Grubhub, I would not be like about 6 months ago, Nathan, there was all these stories about how Grubhub, DoorDash, all these different services, Uber Eats, don't make money. They're all floundering. I think it's after John Oliver did a whole segment on them on his show. And, it just got more headlines that these things don't make money. And in fact, restaurants hate them. Customers hate them. Drivers hate them. Like, there's a lot of pain points in the whole process. I'm wondering if Amazon's like, is this somewhere we can come in and not revolutionize, but at least, fix?
Let me say something. Years ago, like 15 years ago, a long time ago, I used to work, I did restaurant management a long time ago for clients. Mm-hmm. And we used to work quite a bit with the emerging sector, like before apps and everything. And I was actually astonished to find out, like, all these companies, we talked about Israel for ICQ. Did you know, like, pretty much every single food ordering service came out of Chicago? So I don't know what happened, right? I've worked with a few of them. Like, they would tell me, like, they went to business trade school, they went to certain things. But Grubhub, Uber Eats, Campus Court, DoorDash, all that stuff. Yeah, they all came from Chicago. So something was going on there. And I think you look at these things and they're like, they're like ground zero for a lot of stuff. So obviously something was going on in the water over there at the time. And they all had this idea and they all said, I'm going to realize my vision in a different way. And before mobile apps, it was a website, or it was actually client software, like a POS.
Yeah.
And I used to have to deal with these people all the time, Ben. They would come to the restaurants and they say, hey, we have this new service. It's called such and such. And you let us run your website. You give us your menu and we will take care of all your online orders. And they'd send you a fax when the order came in. They take a small percentage. So in order to do that, the businesses would have to raise their price. But hear me out. Like restaurants at the time still had to get landlines. So they get those ancient credit card readers, the giant things that look like a shoe.
Yeah.
And, and did you know every time you do a credit card transaction, depending on the credit card you have, the restaurant has to eat it. Like Visa will take out 1%, American Express will take out 5%. That's why you go to gas stations, they say, oh, we can't accept any transaction under $3, right?
Yep.
Because they have to pay for the landline, they have to pay for this. When Square came out, with the Square readers, that was a lifeblood for these restaurants because suddenly they didn't need to have the landline. They didn't need to have any of that stuff. It was huge. It was a transitional. And the apps were even more transitional, but it's come at a cost. Prices have gone up, not because of inflation, but because of the necessary needs of doing business. Because suddenly everything became a transaction increase. But again, they all go back to Chicago. They all begat out of there.
Right.
They're all competing. And at some point, some will fail, and the ones that will succeed will probably be acquired by, like you said, acquired by a huge company that can modernize them. Like I got to tell you right now, if I was a restaurant and Amazon came to me and said, "Look, you're going to make a little less money on this order, but you're going to make a lot more orders," then that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's a good transition. That's a good trade.
Yep. So there you go. Included, if you are a fan of these services, hey, honestly, Nathan, it feels like if you are an avid Grubhub user, Grubhub might actually lose customers on this, but they're getting, I think, a big sizable investment from Amazon that they're willing to risk people canceling their subscription because it's included. Like, I'm wondering what the overlap is of people who have Prime.
To be fair, Grubhub doesn't lose any money. Like they're still charging service fees. They're just not charging delivery fees. Like you're still paying Grubhub. Like they're still getting their money. Like, and that's why if you take a restaurant on Grubhub, if you look on your app right now, Grubhub, and you go look at the company website, chances are the same menu items are going to be more expensive on Grubhub than they are on the website. Like there's going to be like the Grubhub tax.
Right.
So they've factored all this stuff in. It's like, it's like healthcare in the United States. Like, oh, healthcare, everyone has access to healthcare now. It's so much. No, it's more expensive because they're using more services. That's just how it works. That's
right.
How it works. You're not gonna pay less and get more. It doesn't work like that.
Well, there you go. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to everyone's favorite, AI. I know, they're not sick of it yet, Nathan, I promise.
Yay!
AI, and I do not subscribe to the one that you sent over. You sent over from the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So I'm going to switch on over to CNET. I'm sure it has a lot of the same thing, but anyways.
Oh yeah, it's the same story.
Yeah. This has to do with Google Gemini, and they've been really hyping Gemini and what it can do, all that good stuff. Because when it comes to search results, like you can ask AI whatever you want, and there are competing models out there of AI. But Nathan, when it comes to asking a computer a question, there really aren't many or really any companies that are as fluent in answering the questions that you have as Google. And that doesn't always translate to the right answer because, how many times have you had to refine to refine your Google search? Well, when you ask questions of Gemini, sometimes it tells you really stupid and really bad things. And Google has come out and said, we are going to go back to, not the drawing board, but, we're going to go back under the hood and we are working on it. Because some of the odd, inaccurate or unhelpful AI overviews certainly did show up. And that was a direct quote from Google themselves. So, Nathan, what was your takeaway? Because I know that you've talked about this. I think last time we talked about like founding fathers, and it gave like a a mixed race bag of founding fathers. And
you mean our founding fathers weren't Koreans?
Yeah.
It's just.
Nonsensical and satirical answers to legitimate questions, and AI was just very bad at answering things.
Here's the
some
thing.
things, honestly.
What I said a few minutes ago about bad companies running good ideas. A good company will run a good idea. A bad company will run a good idea into the ground. What Google has demonstrated again and again and again and again is that not only do they not understand AI, they should not be doing AI because they fundamentally do not understand why AI is important. They screw up hilariously. It's one thing to say they're going to make George Washington black and they're going to make Nazis into Vietnamese Cambodians. That's hilarious up to a point. It's another thing to say, hey, let's put glue on your pizza and eat rocks. That's another thing. That this company felt comfortable putting this garbage out there like this, they can't. Google could do this 10, 15 years ago when they were the hot stuff. They can't do this because there are much better companies that do much better jobs. What Google is doing is Google is taking their central thing, search, their bread and butter, and they're poisoning the well with this bad AI program. They are poisoning it. They are taking the one thing they're known for. That would be like Coke making new Coke, right? It didn't work. Like it didn't work.
That was a planned catastrophe that Coke had, but
that's the conspiracy, and I kind of believe it. But,
I absolutely no. Okay, how do you sell a product that is based on taste the new Coke and be like, yeah, that's good? No, it was definitely planned.
How do you take a company that's worth $1 trillion in search and give results that show Nazis were Koreans? Like
because they said it would be funny. So real quick, just want to lay this out. What Google said, and these are all things that it's going to do, saying it's using better detection mechanisms for nonsensical queries and limiting the inclusion of satire and humor content.
So it's not AI anymore.
It's limiting the use of user-generated content in responses that could offer misleading advice. It's added restrictions for queries where AI overviews were not proving to be as helpful. And last, it's striving to not show AI overviews for hard news topics, saying where freshness and factuality are important, and adding refinements for health-related topics to enhance our quality protection. So essentially, they're saying for things that need to be factual, we're going to not give you AI overviews of these things. And where things need to be helpful, we're going to restrict AI. Where things need to be, at least somewhat helpful, we're going to restrict AI responses. And where things can be funny, we're going to restrict AI. So
the best way to do AI is to take away AI.
Is to restrict it on almost every category. Yeah.
Nonsense. Absolute waste of time. Just pull the plug. Like if they can't do this, then just don't bother. Like
Google needs to be an AI. I really and honestly don't see a future where Google isn't in AI.
No, Google may. Well, here's the thing. We talked about ICQ. ICQ was dominant. Everyone at the time who was online used it, but it didn't survive. Yahoo used to be the dominant search platform. It was literally the euphemism for that. It didn't survive like that. Google doesn't need to survive. They could go away if they don't pivot right. They have made an inferior product and they are doubling down, and they're saying the only way to make our inferior product work is to take away all the new stuff that we promised you. No, like there are better AI models that do better jobs. And I'll say this, I'm not an AI expert by any means, but I'm also not like a Luddite. I don't say, oh, AI is going to create Terminators and blow us up. I don't think that. I think at most it'll be hilarious illustrations and movies and all kinds of fun stuff. But I am a not a fatalist, but I'm a realist. And here's how I view it. AI needs to do what came yesterday better and more efficiently. Mm-hmm. If it's giving me worse answers, if it's giving me incorrect, dangerous results, now you say the word facts, right? Very contentious word.
Google themselves use the word factual. Yes.
Of course, factual by their standards, factual, right? For example, it's been shown that some maps in Google Maps show the word Israel on a map, and some maps don't show the word Israel on a map, depending on where you're at. So the word fact has a very different meaning geographically for Google. Same with China. China, they say, well, these certain facts didn't happen, but in the Western world, those facts happen. Facts are not fungible. They are not you know, they are not situational. Facts are facts. But in the world of SEO, when you have human hands interfering, then facts aren't facts anymore. And pretty soon you say to yourself, well, we're gonna result this. But you know what? We want to be fair, we want to be inclusive. So we're gonna tweak this, and suddenly it's not a fact anymore. And we're gonna tweak this, it's not a fact anymore. It's not real anymore. It's opinion. But we have an obligation to change it. So we're gonna do this. Well, we want to be more inclusive to economically disparate. So we're gonna include this. And pretty soon it's not AI anymore. It's right back to where we started from. Look, life is messy. Life is bad sometimes. And life is confusing.
I have seen AI, kind of swing both ways. Where, and I can pull up, half a dozen stories that, and mainly with chatbots, when the users themselves would feed in information that then the AI model would, kind of internalize and start to, kind of rewire itself. Boy, is it easy to turn one of these things racist. The problem with AI right now is it has no convictions. There are no facts. It has no firm lines. AI right now is a master of yes and. It's a master of like improv. And that's why, Nathan, you're getting these stories of like, someone convincing AI that 2 + 2 = 5. You get, AI where someone bought a car for $1 at a dealership through the AI. Well, like, AI will mostly, and with enough insistence, will never tell you no. You can eventually get AI to work itself around to whatever you want it to say. And that's a problem with AI.
Let me ask you a question about empathy, right? Let's say you're a statistician, you like stats. Let's say you're doing a paper on statistical anomalies in the aggregate of American criminology, right? Let's just say you're doing something like that. You're doing something. You just need some facts. You don't need an opinion. You don't need, you don't need a consensus. You just want some numbers so you can do trends, and you could say, well, where are the tough spots? Let's figure it out. I'm a policy guy, right?
Right.
So you go into Google or whatever. Okay, give me government statistics on crime. Okay, here we go. Now, give me statistics on who commits the most crime, and you narrow it down. Let's do race, let's do gender, let's do age, let's do all this stuff. Okay, it's a bunch of numbers. Okay, let me ask AI. Hear me out. Forgive me, audience. What race commits the most crime? Google would say, oh, empathy can't do that. Well, there are a lot of factors that go in this. No. And then you start seeing empathy. Then you start seeing like, well, I don't want to just necessarily say this because it might offend somebody. But in the end, you're asking for the same information, but you're asking one version of the model to be empathetic because you don't want to offend people. On the other hand, numbers don't necessarily offend people because they're not empathetic. Numbers are numbers. They can be interpreted by the statistician. So the AI models would overtake the statistician's queries, and therefore you're not going to get the answer you want because somebody may be offended, and it may do this. And that's the problem about searching, is that you and I are not necessarily going to search for the same thing because we may not have the same meaning, and we may not even have the same motive. If I was a racist, maybe I'm looking for something. But if I'm an actual scientist who wants to find weak points in policy to make change, then I need that information.
Right.
But Google will say, well, facts can be a little offensive, so I'm going to gate certain information because I don't want it to be misused. And you see this with AI all the time. Well, I can't say that because of this. I'm not allowed to say this because the parameters have been switched off at the source. And that's not AI. That's not it. That's curation. That is different. That is very different. And that's the trend on anything. That's the trend on any search engine. Like they don't want certain information to be offensive. So what you're going to get this Disney Channel version of information that has been predetermined and decided for you.
I'm curious. I'm curious what's going to happen with AI. And the article gives it a name called hallucination. What happens when you give it a query and it wants, like AI wants to give you an answer. It wants to interact with you. So far I've never met an AI that was like, don't talk to me, Ben. Not right now. No, what a stupid thing you've just asked. I gotta go.
I have a headache.
I have a headache. But no, hallucination where, think of like that lawyer that asked for case law pertaining to this, and it gave a bunch of things that look like case law, but were in fact all made up. How do you tackle, like, if you tell it, don't give people that information, or if you tell it, answer these things in this way, what happens when the hallucination kicks in and you start to give out facts or things, or supposed facts that don't exist? Eventually, AI is going to plug those holes with things that are made up by itself. And
yeah, we'll fill it in.
Yeah,
it'll develop human inference, where it will, like in human psychology, they call that Gestaltian, the idea that the human brain, in the absence of full information, fills in the gaps. Like, for example, connect the dots. Like, you have to connect the dots on the paper. Mm-hmm. That's Gestaltian, because you don't have to see the lines. You could like, for example, a good example, Ben, would be, I can brainwash you right now. I can actually brainwash you right now using this. For example, if I want you to think of a number, if I tell you the number, that's not you thinking, that's you hearing of it. But let me give you an example. 2, 4, 6. I just made you think of 8, but I didn't have to say it. Right. That's how brainwashing works. That's a very primitive example of how brainwashing works. That's how AI works too. That's how all human queries work. I will give you the answer that I want to give you, and you will think that you came up with it. You will think that this is appropriate. Like, there's a very funny Simpsons episode from 20, 30 years ago where in the future, the schools were all bought by Pepsi Cola. So Pepsi funds the school system. And the kid is asked a question like, what's 3 + 3? And the kid answers, Pepsi? And the teacher says, partial credit. It's like, that's what we want. And I just ask you this question, like Isaac Asimov would ask this question. Should information be democratic? Should information be democratic? And if so, who gets to decide what information is more relevant than others? You understand? Like, and the answer is maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. We certainly gate certain information away from people. You can go to the library right now. You can go to you can go to Project Gutenberg. You can go to archive.org and download the classics for free. Not even controversial. You download all the Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, Clemesius, everything you want. Doesn't cost you a thing. But if you want to buy the new Stephen King book, it's $30 or $10 on Amazon Prime. It's like, we gate certain things because we put value on it. And what the problem is that what Google is attempting to do badly is they have taken their monopoly with search, and they are a monopoly. They are taking their monopoly with search and saying, well, we have the information. It is in society's best interest that we decide how this information gets out. We'll give you some, but we're going to decide in what order it comes out, because we think that it's best that it comes out in this way, as opposed to just like a fire hose, a deluge. Like, oh, all this information can be dangerous. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of an absolutist, and I don't believe in censorship. I don't believe in guardians. I don't believe in any of that stuff. But that's all I'm going to say is, but maybe we should have a little. I'm not knowledgeable enough to say.
So a lot of what being an AI scientist has to do with nowadays is not even like, and trust me, there are people behind AI, and I think that's where a lot of the issues that you have kind of come down, is that you have people, people that are on Google's payroll, you have people who are on Microsoft's payroll that have an HR department, they have to answer PR, there are people behind AI. It's not just simply an infallible computer. And AI is going to have growing pains because, hey, it's not a standalone kind of thing. Humans have a big influence on it. I just got to say, I scrolled down the article here on CNET that we'll include in the show notes, but I was reading, how many rocks shall I eat? Cheese not sticking to pizza. Like, I was reading these. These are actually funny. These are obviously AI giving bad answers, like telling you to drink 2 liters of urine every 24 hours. But they're funny.
Well, can I say something? Like Scott Adams, like the Dilbert guy, he's kind of controversial, but he does a lot of research on this stuff, and he brought up a very good point that I looked at a while ago, is that in AI modeling, in search engine modeling, they always give preference to an abundance of content. So if the answer has more query searches, it's going to be the more likely answer. Like, it's like an inversion of Occam's razor, where if you're faced with a difficult situation, the most obvious answer is usually the right one. But we have seen companies in the past, very many, game the system. You know this. Companies like JCPenney got in trouble for this, where they would create fake websites, like content. Like, have you ever gotten for Computer America? Have you ever gotten those spammy emails that say, "Hey, we'd like to do sponsored content on your website. Let us write an article for you." Yeah, they do that because it's nonsense. It's just keywords, SEO buzzwords. They just plant these things like viruses in your computer, and they create like a mesh network of SEO. So if I say Coca-Cola tastes better than Pepsi, and I plant that in a million websites, and I say, Google, what is the best tasting cola? It's going to be Coca-Cola, because there's a million more queries. It must be right.
Right.
Like, if I can give you a political, I don't want to be political here, forgive me, but I have to. If you say, did President Trump say, inject bleach in your veins? And say, Donald Trump made a statement, because there's going to be a million things that said, yes, Donald Trump said inject bleach. But if you actually look at it, if you actually go beyond that, if you actually look at it, he never said that. And I'm not defending Donald Trump, but what I'm saying is that if a number of people say it, then that makes it, quote unquote, factual, because it's the preponderance. And we preference quantity over quality. And what Google is attempting to do, or they're saying they're doing, they want to do quality over quantity, but because they control the flow, it still calls into question the quality. And that's the problem. At some point, it's like, remember that old nursery rhyme? I know an old lady who swallowed a fly. I don't know why she swallowed a fly. I don't know that one. Then it becomes, she swallowed a fly, I think she'll die. Then she swallowed a spider. It tickled and wriggled inside her. She swallowed the flighter to catch the spy. And then she keeps swallowing things to counteract. It's like a Russian nesting doll. Okay. That's what Google's doing. Like, they're literally saying, well, I'm going to do this. And then they have to do 2 fingers, then 3 fingers, then 4 fingers. And pretty soon it's not useful anymore. And the next thing, you're eating Rocky pizza and ingesting glue like Tide Pods. It's like, why not just... Yeah. Why don't
I'm curious. I'm curious what different AI models are going to become, because of course you have, OpenAI, you have Gemini, you have so many others. These will not all be the same. They will not be one service. And Nathan, I'm curious what is going to happen, because eventually, companies will prefer one AI, individuals will prefer another AI. You will have dominant AIs that will either merge, mix, mash, whatever, mesh in certain ways. I am curious where the future of AI kind of goes.
I will say this. We're also talking, when you talk about AI, though, you got to talk about the data sets it's calling from. And a lot of companies are now very suing, saying, you can't use our data. You can't do this. You can't use our data set. Like music company, I forget who just said, was it Sony? I think it was Sony, maybe Warner Brothers, says you can't use AI modeling on our songs. Like, as soon, so it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be the richness of what it is. My view is this: there's never been any one thing that's done absolutely everything perfect. Like, I still use Google for search, but I also use Bing, and I get different results. Sometimes I get better results on Bing. Like, I do. I do. Sometimes I don't. Like, I use them both. That's why my favorite browser is Firefox. I can search them all. But what I'm saying is that I'm not expecting AI to be perfect. And I'm not expecting AI to give me the answers I want.
Right.
But Ben, I'm going to be honest with you, though. This is the final thought on this. This is a big thing, though. But I think I research better than some people. I think when I research, I want my tools to be a little sharper.
Right.
I want my access to be a little bigger. But I also know not everybody wants that. Like I told you about the argument about free. Some people just want to get basic. They want what everyone else wants. Like, what's the best tasting soda? Maybe they're okay with Pepsi or Coke. Maybe when they look up a word, maybe they want to know what their friends are thinking. Like, I get that. So Google, you don't have to make everything for everybody, but please just have just a little fidelity to historical accuracy, a little fidelity to actual facts. And you know what? If I were going to recommend to Google and Facebook and Microsoft and Apple, like, why don't we just agree, like, a couple things are verboten. No child porn. Let's get rid of that. No overtly racist and misogynistic and misandrous stuff. Don't really need that. Like, let's just do a couple safe bricks. I think we'll be okay with that. Just a few. Just a few. Like, I think we can all agree on certain things. Can we all agree
you need some kind of guardrails on the whole thing. But okay, so we've talked a little bit about that. And actually, let's roll in this other article that you have here about Microsoft ARM Copilot. I think it's supposed to be Microsoft maybe and Copilot. Yeah, Microsoft is introducing Copilot Plus PCs. So these are PCs that have something called Copilot Plus built into them. So just like back in the day, there was, Windows. Well, I guess this is like pretty much the same thing. It's like whenever you buy a PC and it's like, oh, it's Windows 11 ready. Oh, it's Windows 10 ready. It's what is it? Ray Trace, NVIDIA RTX
this is a little
ready.
Different. This is a smidge different. A smidge.
How's that?
Because this is okay. You're right, though. You're right about that. It's going to be branded to have
it's
certain things.
It's a marketing tool to say that it's Copilot Plus ready. But yeah.
Up to a point, because a little bit's like you said, DirectX 11 or Vista ready or whatever ready. Up to a point, because we talked about AI accelerator chips and NPUs and all that. Like, okay, it's kind of like your PC's going to need an NPU chip the same way at one time you needed a Wi-Fi chip or a Bluetooth chip or a serial port chip. If you want all the cool, fancy new hotness, you need the new fancy new hotness chip. Okay, a lot of people. But what we're talking about now is what Microsoft did is partnered with ARM to create a new viable chipset, and clearly this is their answer to Apple's M chips. Like, they've literally compared it to M2s and M3s and whatever.
Right.
Apple's chips are awesome. We've talked about this. They're very fast. They're super energy efficient. They blow the stacks off of Intel and AMD for most things, but they're Apple. So what they did, like the idea that you have Windows on ARM processors was kind of laughable. You had to have low powered. It didn't work. But what Microsoft did is they showed that not only would Windows run well, they'd run better than on Intel and ARM, and because they're using AI. So what we're talking about here is not necessarily just a brand. What we're talking about is an entirely new operating environment. It is Windows on ARM, and it's going to use whatever they confabulate, AI, whatever, to make it run faster and more efficiently. And it's remarkable. It really is good because they're doing what Apple's been doing for a couple of years. They have a new chip that's drastically more efficient than Intel or AMD. It is incredibly fast, incredibly powerful. Now, there was a story that broke while we were talking, by the way, while we were just talking, that somebody cracked ARM x86 already to run some of these features. I think a lot of people got kerfuffled, like I did, about one of the Copilot features called Recall, where they're going to start like repeatedly just take snapshots of what you're doing. Yeah. And I think a lot of people misunderstood what that was. They thought it was like Apple's timeline thing where, you could just go back in time. No. That's not what it is at all. It's actual AI. It literally is taking screenshots and it's capturing all the text, all the images, all the keystrokes, like everything you do is being captured. And it's using AI to create an amalgamation of who you are and what you're looking at. Like, So if you type in, vacation photo, green shirt, dog, it can find it.
Right.
It's remarkably interesting. It's also scary as hell. And like a lot of people,
as you know, one of my family members works in healthcare. It's also, it's been a conversation.
Possibly illegal.
Yeah, possibly illegal for HIPAA reasons. Yeah. So very confusing. But that's what they're doing.
But let me just say it again. It's already been cracked. Like, and when Microsoft says, it's 100% encrypted, it's safe, that means it's not, because there's never been anything that's 100% encrypted. And this is a company that puts ads in your browser, like in your operating system. Like, I'm sorry, Microsoft, but I don't want it. And I talked about this with you. Was it last time? I said, look, I love Windows 11. I'm an evangelist on Windows 11. I love it. I think it's my favorite Windows. But I'm getting worried. I'm getting a little worried that my privacy is not being protected the way it should. Now, you say to yourself, well, what do you have to be protected about? Well, honestly, that's my business. Like, I had a surgery, right? I told you I had a surgery. So I get some doctors. I get my chart. I use all the nice software. So I get an email that condenses some doctor's notes in one of my private emails. Now, Google says, your email's private. Da, 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 da. No, don't worry. It's encrypted. But the name of the medication was in the email, right? And within like an hour, I started seeing ads for that medication on Amazon, like everywhere else. Like, There's no
Yeah.
such thing as privacy. There's just no such thing. And if you're a doctor and they're taking screenshots of patient records and everything, like, do me a favor. Name one company ever that has not been hacked, that has not had their databases hacked. Name it. They don't exist. And if you tell a bunch of hackers, like if you actually say, oh, your operating system that contains all your passwords, medical records, bank statements, porno pictures, whatever you're looking at is challenge accepted. They're going to get it. They will crack this stuff in a day. They will do it.
Right.
And I'm just saying, I don't know if you can disable it. I really don't. I think it's limited to Copilot Plus, like the ARM stuff, but it will come to x86. But again, that Mac OS is starting to look a little nicer right now. And
Yeah.
I'm just saying, with Microsoft, the chips are awesome. Can I say this? I looked at them. They're really cool. They're really fast. Have you ever played with an M chip MacBook, like an M1, M2, M3?
No, I have not actually. It's
nope. They are fast.
Nice.
You know what I did? I actually did something silly. Apple had their little thing the other day with the new iPads. I was like, I don't need those things.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, I wonder what they'd give me for my old iPad. I looked it up. I was shocked how much they would give me for my old iPad. I have a vanilla iPad from like 2021.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not going to say what they're going to give me. They gave me a lot. So I said, you know what? It's time to upgrade. So I bought the new iPad Air 2024.
Nice.
Now I love iPad Air. I've never had one. I always had the vanilla. It's got the M2 chip in it, right? And I got to tell you, I've used M2s. I've used M3s. Apparently the new iPad has M4. Too much. But Ben, they are so fast. Like I was playing Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
On my iPad, not the Pro, on the iPad Air, right? They're too powerful. Like they're really good. And the ARM process, these ARM chips are the same thing. Like that's really cool. Like that's future. That's the future. What Microsoft showed, that's the future. That's what the future should look like, smaller and faster.
Yeah.
But not the Copilot stuff though. That's scary.
Yeah.
That's bad.
And obviously just reading the article that we're going to include in the show notes, they're obviously targeting this towards businesses first. So yeah, I am curious how that's going to work with corporate, I guess, sponsors and corporate users. So
I look forward to getting emails about data breaches and how my data might have been compromised, and because I get that right now, I get that already.
It would be interesting if they actually do make profiles on people, and it's like, oh, we didn't just lose your data, we lost you, we lost your face scans, we lost your fingerprints, we lost your bank cards, we lost your place of work.
Think about this.
I don't know.
Think about this. Those data protection things. Oh, your social security number, just one number was compromised, and it ruins people's lives. Imagine that quintupled to everything about you, right? And
yeah,
we talked about,
eventually you can change a social security number. You can't exactly change a face scan. So,
well, I'll just say this. You talked about how bad car thing was, and somebody should have read the tea leaves, right? Mm-hmm. Microsoft, this is the stupidest thing you have ever done as a company. Quit this now. Kill it at the vine. Turn it off. Nobody wants this.
And Steve Ballmer isn't even there. That's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, but you know what though? Under Nadella, they've made money.
Yep.
Like they've done better than ever. Like he's made them money. He knows what he's doing up to a point. So I mean, but no, please. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know if I want that on my computer. I don't want it.
So Nathan,
I'm a Luddite when it comes to this. Yeah.
So Nathan, let's go ahead and switch up here, and let's just have fun for the rest of the show, because we're going to talk about the PlayStation State of Play show, and then we're going to just transition that into Popzara's essentially State of Play show, which is the state of gaming over at Popzara. So we're going to start with the Sony one, and we found an article that we're going to kind of pick from, but at the same time, Sony did a show where they kind of say, here's all of our upcoming games, here's what you can look forward to, and surprise, surprise, a lot of sequels, a lot of prequels, and just a few kind of new things. So what did you think of the show overall?
I think the games were fine. I think, they did what they needed to do. They showed a lot of new updates. Not a huge library, but we don't have E3 anymore. It's dead. So we have these little treehouse things, thanks to Nintendo. So no, they showed off a respectable number of new things. The PlayStation 5 is the new dominant console for the generation. Like it's going to surpass the Switch at some point as the dominant gaming platform, and that's fine. It's a good system, very powerful. Sony, if you're listening, nobody wants or needs a PS5 Pro. Don't do it. Don't do it. Nobody cares. Nobody's buying your big expensive games. They want smaller stuff, and you don't need more expensive hardware to do that. You don't. The PS5 is pretty good. It's pretty powerful. Make the most of it.
Yep.
You'll be surprised. That being said, you'll notice this wasn't just PlayStation, though. They talked a lot about PC. They talked about Xbox. There was an Xbox game that Sony showed off. Think about that for a second. This is the state of things now. Like Microsoft show, like I don't want to get into the weeds. I want to keep this fun. But I've said before, and I've said it with Corey for 2 years, the Xbox console is on life support. Everybody knows it. As a platform, as a hardware, it's awesome. As a hardware that people actually want, not so much.
Right.
And I think Microsoft knows this. They've expanded their third party, as a second and third party, they've expanded to PlayStation and Nintendo and PC, as they should. And I think at some point they're going to phase out the Xbox hardware and concentrate on being a software producer, which they do really well. They do. By the way, the Xbox hardware, again, awesome hardware, better than PlayStation 5, no doubt, but it's not popular. Yeah. And that's it. And so what happens is you have companies like Microsoft that develop all these $100 million software products for a console that nobody has. And guess who gets the blame? The software companies. That's why you see so many studios closing, because they don't make their targets, because they just don't have the platforms to sell it. Can't do it. But you do multi-platform, fantastic. And that's what Sony did. Sony is showing PC games, they're showing PlayStation 5 games, they're showing Xbox games. This is Sony now. They're doing what Microsoft does. This is the new future. And they showed some nice stuff. God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC. That's a big game for Sony. Now it's PC like everything else. They showed this new game called Concord, which is basically, what do you call it?
It's a
Destiny.
Yeah, it's
Destiny
a
clone.
Multiplayer PvP first-person shooter. So, yep.
Yeah, you got a new Astrobot game. Finally, like the little mascot guy. He's cute. Let's see where he's going. Marvel Rivals is a PlayStation game coming to Xbox. Think about that. New Monster Hunter. Japan is going crazy for that. They can't get enough of Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
It's Capcom's biggest game. But it's on everything, too. Silent Hill 2 is coming out. I don't know if it's coming out on PlayStation as well, Xbox as well, or PC. I imagine it will. New Dynasty Warriors. I mean, it's Dynasty Warriors. There's a million of them.
Right.
There's lots of stuff there. Until Dawn remake.
You just skip over Path of Exile 2. That's like the one game I'm like looking forward to the most. Not on PlayStation, but on PC.
But isn't it already on PC?
Path of Exile 1 is out. Path of Exile 2 keeps getting pushed back. So, yeah.
But you see all kinds of stuff. You're going to see a lot of stuff. And honestly, it's a nice variety. If you actually look at the games that they actually announced, it's a nice little variety of stuff. And a lot of them are multi-platform friendly. But that's not what I want to talk about. I expect the games to be okay. I expect that. What really bothered me a little bit was Sony's attitude about their own platform. They actually announced that the PlayStation 5 is the most profitable console they've ever made, even though it's only sold like a quarter of the other ones. Because they said, what do you call it? Microtransactions and games as a service, right? And what they really mean, that's kind of a lie, because they're including PC in there, because Helldivers 2 is a huge game for them, but it was on PC day one. And Helldivers 2 right now is the best-selling game of the year. It's the best-selling game of the year right now. And it's multi-platform. And so, but you have microtransactions. So on one hand, they're saying we're selling less games, but we're making more money, which means that all that money they spent on developers, they're going to see that as a sunken cost, like a fallacy. Like, we don't need to spend all this money on software. We'll just take a game and we'll monetize the hell out of it, and we'll do microtransactions, and it'll make more money. That's toxic. That is bad for the industry. That will kill it. That will kill it. That will kill it. Already has. It already has. So that's like saying, you know what? We live in this cabin. We didn't get any firewood. But you know what? If we burn this table, wow, I'm getting more heat with less work. Oh, we ran out of table. I'm going to chop off my wall. Yeah. Look at that. All this firewood. That's what Sony's doing. They're literally having a fire sale. And they also said that half the reason this generation's successful is because people are still using the PlayStation 4.
Yep.
That's crazy.
PlayStation 4 has been very resilient, and
huge.
Say what you want about PlayStation, they want to sell the game, so they still make games that are released today available for both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. So
this is going to sound really weird to people, but you don't need the most powerful hardware to make a good game. You don't need the most powerful hardware to sell a game. If you spend $300 million making the most graphically intensive thing that ever was, it's not going to make any more money than that little indie game that took $10 and two guys to make. Like Minecraft is the most successful piece of gaming software that Microsoft has ever been involved with.
Yep.
I promise you it did not cost $300 million. And that's the problem, though. It's like they also have PSVR 2, which is, I'll say it, it's a failure. Didn't succeed. Sold really fast, died. And did you see any support for it here? Not really.
Yeah.
Like, it's coming to PC, but like, that's okay. Just get rid of it, phase it out. Nobody really wants it. Concentrate on what you have. But the industry, Ben, cannot be helped by what Sony's doing. What Sony's doing is parasitic. They make really good products, but the lessons they're learning are the wrong lessons. That is not for longevity. Like third-party developers have been saying, the PC and the Switch have made them the most money because they're more flexible on a certain type of product. So, for example, this is going to sound long-winded, but I'll make it fast. If you want to listen to music, you have, like in the old days, you had to sit down your stereo, put on your vinyl, sit down in the middle of the room, get the best point, and you listen to music, have fun. It's very exclusive. Yeah, does it sound great? It sounds amazing. But you go outside, you get a little crappy FM radio, the sound is tinny, but you can take your music with you. That's the future. That's the future. You can have both. But what Sony's doing is, what Sony's suggesting anyway, is that they can monetize more expensive software at the expense of smaller software and more investment. And that's a problem. It doesn't work. It won't work. It hasn't worked. It's put a lot of companies out of business. Everybody knows this. That's why you're going to see more and more indie stuff, because the cost barrier is nothing. Nintendo, Steam, they are much more receptive to this stuff. If you're a developer, you're not going to spend $100 million setting up a studio with 50 people in a corporate office when you could just remote contact a bunch of nerds on Skype, on Discord, and make your game and make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
What's healthy. That's what builds the industry, by the way, what I just said. Those are the people that are going to save it.
Yeah. And there will always be an industry. Like gaming has expanded, and I'm sure this is something that you cover in your over in your podcast, The State of Gaming. Because I know that you guys love talking about your numbers and sales figures and things like that, but also just games in general.
We don't cover that anymore. Did I tell you about that? We actually kind of, because again, the sales numbers are kind of irrelevant. Like the biggest game in the world is Fortnite. You have, Call of Duty Warzone. They don't check numbers on them. Yeah. There's no way to check.
When I was kind of leaning into the numbers was that gaming is expanding. There's more money being spent on gaming year over year. More people are spending more time and more money on gaming. Like, it's a growing field, and it's going to go somewhere. And hopefully, good games, indie games, good platforms.
It will be gaming will be fine. The problem is, and I hate to say this, but gaming will be fine because of two basic concepts. First of all, it's not going anywhere. Like, somebody will be making games. It's too much. So I'm not worried about the gaming industry. What I am worried about is when you have big companies like Microsoft and Sony, and to some extent Nintendo, but they're very different. I just want to say Nintendo is different. They're different. They refer to things as AAA development. You have a piece of crap game like Redfall that was garbage then, garbage now. And this game got through quality testing. This game was marketed with video cards. Like, we're gonna give this game away. They were proud of this piece of crap. They call that a AAA game because it costs $100 million. What you're looking at right now on that screen, that's Hades 2. That is a indie game that is a sequel to another indie game that was a huge success, gigantic. This game, it did not take $100 million. It will make $100 million. This game will be a huge hit. It already is. It already is. And what I'm saying is that just because something is called blockbuster or AAA or massive this, it's none of those things. it's only those things when it succeeds, not before. It's ass backwards, right?
Yep.
Like, again, Hades. Nobody knew what Hades was a couple of years ago. It came out of nowhere. Like, we've interviewed Supermassive Games before that we're big fans of them on Popzara. But they're very indie. They're very small, right? Very small company. And so, like, but they do really good work. And they change the industry. Like, Hades is a game changer, a little game changer, right? But no one was giving it away. No one was talking about it. It wasn't promoted. And again, I want to be clear. The people that promoted a game like Redfall, which was garbage and broken and didn't work, those are the people that probably shouldn't be working in this industry. Those are the bad people. Like, I wish Microsoft would take a look at all their executives that are clueless and have destroyed the Xbox brand. I'm not going to say any names, but I could. I wish they would take a look and say, you know what?
Or
you
Phil
have
Spencer.
Destroyed our brand. A lot of them. They just don't need to be working there anymore. They're not suitable for this. They don't understand the industry. Under their leadership, the brand has become tarnished. The games do not sell. Development has delayed. They've acquired companies because their own home companies have dissolved. They have lost faith. Like, their own products have deteriorated. Why are they working in this industry? They're terrible. That's like if McDonald's started serving arsenic burgers and people were getting sick and diarrhea from their milkshakes. Let's continue doing this. Let's see where this goes.
You know that's a made up scenario because apparently the shake machine works. That is definitely
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
We should reward companies that do better. We do with money. We reward games that do better. Like anything else. Like with movies, like we rewarded Top Gun Maverick because it was awesome, right? Let's go see Top Gun Maverick because it's great. Not because it's a big budget movie, but because it's awesome, right? A big budget movie, big budget game can be awesome, just as awesome as Hades, right? Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year. That thing was in early access hell. It was glitchy, buggy. They fixed it. They got it together. And they came out, and I love it. They got Game of the Year from most places. Everybody loved Baldur's Gate 3. It's got bear sex. Everybody loves this game. And they said, you know what? It's done. Let's move on.
Yep.
We're not going to monetize it. We're not going to DLC it. You love this game, but we're going to move on. And that's how you save the industry.
There you go.
Move on.
So speaking of saving everything and in one fell swoop, talk about your podcast that you do with Corey.
Yeah, well, we do it every month. We're changing the format around a little bit. So we focus less on numbers, where we discuss a little bit what's going on in the gaming industry. Hand on my heart, I'm not as into it as I used to be. Like, I don't have my pulse as much as I used to. So thankfully, Corey does. We keep politics to low. We don't talk about controversies. Like I can mention some things here, but Corey and I made a pact a long time ago. We're not going to talk about all the online controversies that are frankly stupid. Mm-hmm. We're not going to talk about cleavage in a PlayStation game. Or we're not going to talk about who said what to who and Twitter stuff. That's nonsense. That's childish. Don't do that. It's not fun. It's stupid. So get rid of it. We'll talk about stuff you like. Like, if I talk about stuff that I didn't like, that means I like it because I like to talk about stuff I don't like. It's a paradox. I don't like doing that. I want to talk about fun stuff. I want to talk about stuff that I like, that gets us excited, that makes us happy. And if we have to say something like the Xbox platform is dying, that doesn't make me happy to say that, but it is a fact. So but I'm not just going to say I don't like Xbox, it's dying. I'm going to try to give you some facts about why it is. I'm going to try to describe it. I'm going to say these are the parameters of which we base this opinion on. And but I love the Xbox. I don't want to see it die. But it's dying, and it's probably going to die. I'm sorry. It's on life support.
Yeah.
And it's in hospice. But the PlayStation 5, great console. Love it. I think it's great. But I'm disappointed when I see some of the choices they make. Like, Nintendo, where's my new Switch? You promised me a Switch. It's not here. Yeah. I was wrong. I thought, but you know what? It's coming out next year. So you know what? You Switch owners out there, get ready for ports. It's going to be nothing but ports for the next year.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But you know what, though?
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's a good industry. It's a fun industry, and it deserves better than it's been getting. And I think it will, but it will be in opposition to what Sony and Microsoft do, not because of it.
Right.
So.
So there you go. And Nathan, honestly, I am looking forward to hearing that because you also have in there the Fallout TV show. So
Oh, fantastic. Did you watch it?
No, I have. Yeah.
It's fantastic. Great show.
Yeah, I watched all of it. I loved every time they released a new one. You know, Nathan, I didn't think I was that into like the episodic release schedule. Like I thought I was a fan of like just dumping it all out.
It's more enjoyable.
It oddly is. So, ladies and gentlemen out there, hey, if you want to find out more, computeramerica.com. We'll have the show notes, and of course, popzara.com. You can just check that out right away. If anything that we had here tickled your fancy, you can of course go to our show notes and you can find it there. Until next time, Nathan, I want to thank you so much for joining us every single month. I hope that you get better soon, and everyone else out there, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.